Well, good morning to everybody here in the States and in Canada. Welcome to the call, and good evening to everybody from down in Australia and New Zealand and across the globe, wherever you might be. My name is Dr. Curt Ficenec, and tonight we're going to talk a little bit about personal care products and how important it is to really understand that you need to buy products that are non-toxic. And we were just having a little discussion before the call, and Trevor was sharing how personal care products really was what got him into network marketing, because he found the products to be so good. So we'll have him share that story on the call, and so everybody can hear that. But my name, again, is Dr. Curt Ficenec. I'm a chiropractor. I've been in practice now for over 30 years, and I've been working with natural medicine for 20 of the 30 years. And I just really love this part of it, because we can help so many people. And we're finding out that a lot of the diseases, the chronic diseases that we have, like cancer, they're saying that 80% of them are triggered by toxins. And so when we look at the toxins that you're exposed to, one of the questions you have to ask yourself is where do you get exposed to more toxins than anywhere else? And it is right in your bathroom of your home. And so that's a good place to start. So tonight, that's what our discussion is on. And so I'd like to welcome a panel that we've put together and discuss this. And Trevor, Andrea, Katie, if you'd like to jump on the call, and we can really get things going here. Just hit *6.
Hi, Kurt. Trevor here.
Hey, Trevor. Welcome to the call.
Hi, Kurt.
Good morning.
Hi.
There we are. So, Trevor, before we get started, really just to kind of kick things off, before the call, you were sharing that it was personal care products that got you started into network marketing. Just share that really quickly, and why that was so important to you when you first got into the industry.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Kurt. It was quite amazing, really. I'd never been involved in network marketing before, but it was my now ex-wife, I should say, my ex-wife. She was the one who brought Tom's previous company's products into the home, the New Ways products, and I just couldn't believe how good the bath and shower gel was. It was absolutely sensational, and so good, in fact, that it was the product that really got me involved and started off in network marketing with Tom's former company.
And that's important, because I think a lot of people think, network marketing is all about just, selling products that are inferior. And like you said, you just love the products right away from the beginning. So that's important for people to know and that. So, well, let's get the discussion going on the products here.
Talking about that, talking about Tom's former company, New Ways, can you just give us a bit more background about how Tom started out, Kurt, with now New Ways and now Sizzle?
You bet. Well, Tom, he's quite a brilliant guy, and he was working for a chemical company, and they asked him to produce a shampoo and personal care products, but they had asked him to do that, and he thought, well, that's easy. So he went home and reached in the shower and pulled the shampoo off the shelf, and looking at the ingredients, he realized how toxic everything was, that when they made the commercial floor cleaners and engine degreasers and things like that they were using the exact same chemicals, and they had to wear hazmat suits when they were manufacturing this. And here they were putting it in products that you were putting on your skin and on your children's skin and in your mouth and all of this, and he realized that it was just horrible. So he went out on a mission to educate people on the fact that they were using products that were toxic like that, and that he manufactured and sold products that were safe for the family to use. So that's really how he got started.
Can I just jump in, Trev? I just wanted to ask Curt, what year was that approximately?
It was in the mid-'80s, I believe. It was in the mid-'80s, Curt. And really, Tom was the very first to start making safe products in the world. Do you know much about the fact that, some of these bigger multinational companies tried to sue him back in those days, Curt?
Yeah, I've heard a number of stories about it. You guys from his previous company, you probably have more knowledge on that. Would you want to share a little bit about the background on that? Yeah.
Well, I believe he when Tom started making safe products, safe personal care products, he was actually taken to account, really. Well, they tried to take him to account, bigger multinational companies, and I believe there was also all sorts of threats thrown around, and Tom just stuck to his guns and basically forged forward and making those safe products. So there wasn't much done about it in regards to suing and whatever.
Yeah, I think, Trevor, it was because they couldn't prove that these bigger companies were saying, well, you can't really say that, that these certain ingredients aren't safe. And he said, well, I can because they're not safe. And it comes back to the point he said that's really how he got started, and he was the first really pioneer in the industry back in the 80s. So, and that's what I've actually heard him talk about that before and read it as well.
That's one thing that's exciting to me about Sizzle is that Tom has been on the non-toxic bandwagon for 30 years. It's very popular for a lot of companies to start having non-toxic products now or organic products. Yet Tom started 30 years ago when actually most of the population didn't even understand anything about toxins 30 years ago. Yeah. So I'm really impressed with that.
A lot of people today who still don't understand it.
Yeah.
And it was more so back then too, because I can remember, going around talking about the sodium oral sulfates, and people would look at you really oddly, and think, oh, what are you talking about?
Yeah. And even with, in his previous line of products, he had a baby powder that was made from cornstarch, and they were talking about back then, this is going back at least 20 years, that, talcum powder has similar chemical properties to asbestos, and so that when it's inhaled, it's actually very harmful. And a lot of people have been reposting stories that have been on the news within the last year or so about Johnson & Johnson being sued for their baby powder and causing ovarian cancer for women who use talcum powder to powder themselves. And they've been winning the lawsuits against them. And, he was talking about that, as I said, over 20 years ago, and people will kind of look at you funny. And everything he's been talking about back then is now becoming more common knowledge and in the news and talked about and recognized. So, yeah, it really is incredible. It's just amazing. It just, shows the truth of what's been spoken.
Yeah, isn't that something that these big companies have been getting away with it for all these years? And for the most part, I'm just going to say that, they know that what they're doing isn't right. So when they lose a lawsuit like this and lose in court, it's finally getting strong enough. The knowledge is getting strong enough that they're having to force these companies to make some changes.
Yeah. Curt, I was just going to ask you about, you've spoken in the past about the lakes in certain states in the United States and chemical residue being found from soaps and them banning it or something. Was there a story around that? I can't remember the exact detail.
Well, a number of years ago, there was a study. I think this is what you're talking about. but they reported that all the waterways, every waterway, every stream, every lake, every body of water in the United States was loaded up with toxic chemicals, and that even the fish out of all those lakes and streams, even in the most pristine areas, had chemicals in them, and it wasn't just from the chemicals that were dumped into the water, but because of pollution, it gets up into the jet stream, up into the air, and has deposited into all the waterways. So they're finding chemicals just everywhere.
Mm.
Hey, Curt, maybe you could talk about toothpaste. It's something we all use every day, 2 or 3 times a day, and it's quite a dangerous product if you buy it off the shelves. Maybe you could discuss some of the information about that.
You bet. Well, Andrea, one of the things, the first thing that I always talk to people about with toothpaste is fluoride. And it's we've all been taught the reason they put fluoride in is because it helps build the strength of the teeth, and that's why it's there. But it's actually kind of interesting that when you actually look at the history of it, back after World War II, there were stockpiles of fluoride that were just all around the country because it's a byproduct of making aluminum. And of course, we had to make a lot of aluminum for the war effort in World War II, and so they were trying to decide what are we going to do with all this fluoride, and there had been some knowledge that fluoride made teeth stronger. So they were going to do a study, or they did a study, and they were going to do a 5-year study in Michigan. So they took 2 cities. One, they put the fluoride in the water. In the other city, they didn't. And they were going to see what happened over the course of 5 years. They went back, and they found after 2 years there was absolutely no change in the amount of dental problems between the 2 cities. So the fluoride wasn't doing anything. But because they had to get rid of all these toxic stockpiles of fluoride, they decided to start adding it to the water anyhow, even despite the fact that it wasn't doing anything. And they've continued to add fluoride to it. And fluoride does build for stronger teeth, and that it helps with dental cavities. But the problem with it is that it's not something that you want to ingest, and so if you could do it without ingesting it, it probably wouldn't be as toxic. But who doesn't swallow a little bit of toothpaste when they're brushing their teeth, and so that's why they have to have a warning on your toothpaste that if you accidentally swallow any, you're supposed to call poison control. Then they've added different ingredients, like Trevor was talking about, the sodium lauryl sulfate, which is a foaming agent that helps with that, and it's used for making commercial floor cleaners and engine degreasers. We've added other chemicals to the toothpaste. They started adding like grit, almost like sand, into the toothpaste, which wears the enamel down. And so you can see all these different chemicals in there. They're not good, they're not healthy for you, and that's why your toothpaste has to have a warning label on it to call poison control. Meanwhile, with the products that we have with Sizzle, with our Super Shine toothpaste, it actually doesn't have any of those toxic chemicals in it at all. It doesn't have fluoride in it. It doesn't have the sodium lauryl sulfate. So it's a really good place to get started when you're trying to make changes in your life, because it's something that you already do every day, and all we're saying is switch over to a safe brand, to something that's non-toxic.
Yeah, and speaking of sodium lauryl sulfate, I, of course, have listened to all of Tom's videos I can find on YouTube. Some of them I've listened to like 10 times over. But I remember him talking about sodium lauryl sulfate being in shampoo, and that it strips all the natural oils out of your hair and also disrupts the natural growth cycles of the hair, so that actually slows down replacement of hair follicle, hair shafts and stuff like that. So when I learned that information, he was saying on one call that sodium lauryl sulfate, when it goes into our body, actually turns into like a dioxin. So in my mind, that's pretty similar to, putting Agent Orange on my head every day, So I went through my household and I looked at all the products that I used, and I found that all of my hair products had it in, every single one of them, and my hand soap had it in, and it's like the second ingredient. And so I don't know about other countries, but in the United States, they list ingredients by how strong they are in the substance. So if it's the second ingredient, that means there's a whole lot of it in there. And, I just basically threw everything out and repurchased from Sizzle to replace that. Why is it that this information doesn't get out so that people understand it better? What is the holdup there? Who's pulling the wool over people's eyes about this?
That is a good question. Why don't people know? Why don't the courts? Why doesn't the government make it mandatory that we have to know the information that you just shared? And I mean, it's all about money. It's about financial gain, is what it is. I mean, unless somebody can prove to me that there's another reason, but yeah, it's all about financial gain. It's easier to sell the chemicals than it is to sell the natural products.
Yeah, Curt, I heard there was a story on the news in the U.S. and the major companies that produce personal care products were lobbying the government because they didn't want to ban certain chemicals because they said it would curtail innovation, trade secrets, and, cost them more money. So that was their rationale behind it. Whilst, these chemicals that the government in the United States was considering to ban, which I do believe was passed in Congress last year, something like 115 in the U.S., chemicals have been banned in personal care products, whilst in Europe there's apparently around about 1,500 chemicals that have been banned, and in Australia here we have 0. So I think what you said about it's about the money, it is, isn't it?
It's all about money.
Can we touch on some of the other chemicals that are commonly found in personal care products, Curt, such as propylene glycol and PEGs? What can you tell us about those?
Yeah, when you look at some of the other chemicals that are found in there, they're just as toxic as the sodium lauryl sulfate. They're just as toxic as the fluoride. The PEGs, the polyethylene glycols, the propylene glycols, the all these different chemicals. I mean, bottom line is that they add chemicals because they can make it so it'll stay on the store shelf longer. It never expires because it's got these chemicals in it, and so that's one reason they add them. But another thing is that they find that the product can go into the skin easier with certain chemicals, and they find that it's like if you take and you put a layer of this chemical on the skin, it makes the skin feel smoother, so it gives the person the illusion that they're using a better product. If they have a chemical that makes your hair shinier, it gives the person that's buying the product, it gives them the illusion that they have a better product because they come out of the shower and they go, oh, look how shiny my hair is. And so they can add these chemicals, and what it does is so many of the chemicals, they are endocrine disruptors, and what that means is that your body makes hormones, and so if you disrupt that process and you make it so that the hormones don't get made properly, you're going to start having issues with estrogens and testosterones, and you have issues with your thyroid. You're going to have issues with the women with their ovaries, men with their prostate, and again, like I said in the beginning of the call, they've really figured out that 80 to 90% of cancer is actually triggered by the toxins that you're exposed to on a daily basis. And you think about shampoos and hand washes and toothpaste, mouthwash. These are things that we use every single day. So that's a good place to start when you're eliminating, trying to get rid of the chemicals.
Yeah.
I'm actually sitting here just shaking my head. It's just incredible to hear that, Curt. Cuddy and I had a bit of a chat this morning about the amount of chemicals that are being found in the umbilical cord of unborn children. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
You bet. Well, a number of years ago, I think like 10 or 12 years ago, there was a study, and they took the umbilical cords of mothers who had just gave birth, and they took the umbilical cord blood. They took a sample of it, the EWG, the Environmental Working Group, and they took a sample of the blood, and they tested it, and they found that the average newborn blood had over 230 different toxic chemicals, including DDT and gasoline and formaldehyde and Teflon, all of these chemicals. And they realized that how bad it was because it was passing not only through the skin, but it was passing from the skin, and it would go through the kidneys, through the liver, and back into the mother's blood, and it would pass that barrier between the mother and the baby in the womb, and just some amazing studies have been going on since then, and how these chemicals are getting into our systems from day one, even before day one.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I was mentioned to Andrea this morning that I'd actually heard about the umbilical cords of children, unborn babies, when I was about 26, and I'm 42, and I was gravely concerned for the future of children, and even having what sort of impact that could have on the children as they grow up. And it was around about that time, similar to Trevor, that I became really interested in toxin-free products. I'd become aware of chemicals sprayed on food because my late father had developed Alzheimer's, and I was questioning what sort of things had he been exposed to that had perhaps been a potential trigger for that. And I became very interested in avoiding toxins in products, including skincare. And one thing that I did particularly notice is that skincare products and even hand wash is with those sorts of ingredients that you've previously mentioned really do irritate the skin and redden the skin and dry it out. So I've noticed a massive difference by making a change and removing those harmful chemicals.
Yeah, I used to teach childbirth classes a number of years ago, and at the time we warned mothers to not handle cat litter, of course, for a different reason, but also to not be exposed to fertilizer in their gardens and chemicals like that. And, that was really probably the first knowledge I had back then. This was way back in the early 80s, to, not handle products like that because it would go into your body. I mean, it wasn't known back then that by handling different things like bleach, just something as simple as bleach, you really should not expose your body to bleach, And I remember that we had a new suburb in our community, and a lot of the young mothers that I worked with in that group of people that were presenting childbirth classes had moved into that new community. And I think they had like 4 women, and this community wasn't that big. There was probably 12 houses there. And I think 4 women in that community, because everybody was putting in their lawns, putting in fertilizer, lost babies, all like within a short period of time of moving in there while they were pregnant. So, it was like, whoa, we started to see that correlation happen right then. And that's one of the things that I was excited about Sizzle is, I had been in another company years ago that had multiple household products, and so you could easily switch your whole household over. And, I've studied toxins for, a lot of things about toxins for the last 4 or 5 years, and I practice avoiding them and learning about them. Not a lot of people do that. For instance, here in America, and I don't know how it is in the rest of the world, but I would say practically every garage in America has a bottle of Roundup in it to kill weeds. And you can kill weeds with something as simple as white vinegar. I was doing a photo shoot at a community function here about 4 years ago, and there was an older gentleman. It was held at a church, and he was running around with Roundup, spraying weeds as all of these people were milling about, and I had like this little station where I was doing photos of people, and, he came over there, and I said, could I ask you to not do that? I have family standing here waiting for pictures, and it's basically a poison. And he turned around and he says, oh, it's not a poison. It's just a weed killer.
By the way,
So I did put together a little bit of information here about makeup. And, I've heard Tom say that 65% of the toxic overload that women have is from their personal care products. So I just went through a little bit of information that I found and then give people a couple of resources where they can actually go start educating themselves. And why is that important? As a Sizzle distributor, I would think that you would want to have a little bit of that background, because when you meet people, they may not understand the dangers of toxins like you do. And so, therefore, you kind of have to educate them a little bit, maybe, to create the need of why they would need Sizzle products. And, you guys don't live in the Western Hemisphere like I do, some of you. But over here, this is all pretty much based on U.S., but I would imagine that your exposure is similar. It said in the European Union has removed over 1,000 ingredients from cosmetic products. The U.S. has banned 8. That's pretty typical of the U.S., I guess. And then another one is 1/3 of all cosmetic products contain possible carcinogens. So 1/3 of, 1 out of every 3 products a woman is using has possible carcinogens in it. Another report was that only 11% of the estimated 10,000 personal care products used by U.S. manufacturers have been tested for safety. 11%.
Wow.
And here's another one. According to one study, 60% of all lipsticks contain lead. We teach children, not to, in old housing projects where they have lead paint on the windowsills and stuff, we teach them not to, go up and play on the windowsill, lick it, eat food off it, all of that, because they'll be exposed to lead. And yet here we have an industry where 60% of what a woman is putting on her lips contains lead. And that's a really important product or substance to avoid. This potent neurotoxin is found far beyond lipstick. It may be in 650 cosmetic products, including foundation, nail colors, whitening toothpaste. So look for being lead-free. Look toward Sizzle for your makeup needs, because we have a whole great line of makeup. And let's just talk about perfumes. I found a perfume a few years ago that I absolutely loved, And, you know, everywhere I went, people would go, oh, you smell so good. And I started realizing I was getting headaches a lot. And just, you know, I could put it on, and it was probably a buildup in my system. But typically, any synthetic fragrance can consist of more than 100 chemical compounds. You know, and instead, we can put together our own little perfume, which really good perfumes are made from natural oils. And we have natural oils available from Sizzle, so you can, you know, mix up your own little fragrance and have it be a personal fragrance for you. Another thing listed was antibacterial, from toothpaste to hand soap, and everything antibacterial in between contains triclosan, which has been found in 75% of Americans. So when they do any toxic testing, they're finding that in everyone. So it's just going into our systems and lurking there. It's an endocrine disruptor, and it works on fetal nervous system damage, low birth weight, and reproductive abnormalities. So protecting babies from, you know, those over 250 toxic chemicals they find in umbilical cord blood would be important.
When I first got started and I found out about all these, you know, harmful chemicals and all the things you've been talking about, I thought my mind was just like boggling with information. I was like, well, how am I going to find safe products? Like, how am I going to find a safe toothpaste and shampoo? And then I thought, oh, well, I'll go out and start looking for them. And I started hunting around at different health food stores with a little toxic guide. And it was, you know, really a difficult task. And the beautiful thing about, you know, Sizzle is that it's a one-stop shop. You can find all your personal care needs in the one place and have them home delivered and not have to worry about is it safe, because the work's already been done to ensure that, you know, they're as safe as they can possibly be. And, you know, we can trust that, you know, Tom is doing a great job, given that he has been doing it for so long and was really one of the first to be doing it. So I just find that incredible and just such a wonderful gift to be able to have that.
Yeah, that was what excited me too. Like I said before, you know, to find a company with over 250 household products. You know, I had been actually looking for a toothpaste for a few months before I learned about Sizzle, you know, trying to find a good alternative to a non-fluoride toothpaste, and had been having a hard time. So I was really excited, and I've just switched my, switched my household over to non-toxic products. But I wanted to share with everyone 2 resources that might help them go learn some information on their own. One is that site that I mentioned. It's healthyworldhealthychild.org for organization. So it's www.healthyworldhealthychild.org. And this was started by a couple in California that lost their 5-year-old child to cancer. And so it's just an organization of people who are excited about sharing information about toxins and giving people good information about that. If you go into that website, they have videos, they have webinars, they have all kinds of information that would be beneficial to people who work with Sizzle, so that they have some of that background knowledge. And then the other one is what Curt mentioned earlier, Environmental Working Group, the EWG.com. Environmental Working Group. So it's www.ewg.com. And in there I just actually found that yesterday, and I found it from going into Healthy Child, Healthy World. And I found a lot of this great information I shared with you about the makeup and stuff is where I found that. And ask somebody what they normally use at home and go ahead and look it up and see what kind of toxins are in it, you know, and show them actually right there.
You should start taking a look at what you're putting in your body through your skin, because it takes less than 30 seconds for those toxins that you just talked about to get from your skin into your kidney and into your liver where they can measure it.
Wow.
It's really interesting information, Andrea, all that you shared, and it's good to see other people getting on board and sharing that kind of stuff, which, Tom had been talking about for 30-odd years, And but I got a question for you, Curt. It's pretty scary for someone who's just come along to take a listen to this talk tonight. How can we deal with it, like within the body? If, let's say, someone's been using, these harmful personal care products for quite a long time, their whole life, and how can we deal with that within the body? How can we help them to get rid of it and deal with it?
That's a great question, Trevor. Yeah, I mean, the first thing is that I always tell people, you want to make sure and get rid of the toxins that you're using. Quit exposing yourself to them. So switch your toothpaste, switch your shampoo, switch your personal care products. Get that done right away so that you're not adding more chemicals to your body. And then your body, it's got the filters, with the kidney, the liver, the digestive system, that it will push most of these toxins out. And then using water, like the hydrogen water, like we have the hydrogen water, the hydrogen attaches to a lot of these chemicals and neutralizes them. So that's a really good piece of information on diatomic hydrogen water. We've got the products like Body Shield, which goes into the system and helps at the cellular level. It helps pull the toxins out of the cells so your body can flush them out. We've got fucoidan, which is a great antioxidant, and taking fish oil every day helps with the body with the inflammation that was caused by all of that.
Oh, thanks, Curt. That's great information there.
Well, I think the thing is that, it's tough to talk to people about it. And when you look at the Sizzle products, what's really nice about it is that they really aren't that much more expensive, and they work. They're effective, because so many of these products that are non-toxic, when you look at them, they actually don't do the job, and that's why people switch back to the toxic ones. I go, and when I get my hair cut, they always want to shampoo your hair, and so I bring my own shampoo, and so the girl that cuts my hair, she laughs at me, and she said, "You're the only guy that brings his own shampoo in." I guess there's some women in Fargo that do, but I'm the only guy that brings my own shampoo, and I say, "Yep." I'm going to bring it in every single time because I don't want that. I don't want those toxic chemicals getting on my head. So it's just making people aware of it.
Yeah.
We just want to touch on too that Sizzle profit shares. So can you just touch on that for those who, you mentioned a few products there that help to rid the body of all these toxins. Can you just touch on that just so people can get a bit of an understanding of profit sharing within the company?
Right. Well, I mean, think about this. I mean, if you've listened to the call for the last 45 minutes, listen to us talk, you realize that this is something people need to know. And whether you got paid or not, you'd probably share this with people. At least I would, and I share it with people all the time. But on top of that, here now what Sizzle's basically done is they've said, look, what we're going to do is we're going to make you guys, those of us that are on the call, those of us that are doing the call, people that are sharing this information, what Sizzle's done is they said, we're going to make you the advertising branch of the company. And so instead of paying people like Tiger Woods or Michael Jordan to tell you, hey, take a look at these products, what Sizzle's doing and what network marketing companies do is they pay us to go out and tell other people about it. And so when we take a look at products like this, if I'm buying, say, $100 worth of different products, shampoos, toothpaste, nutritional products, personal care products, and I go out and share it with a number of people, and I get 3 people who start using the products, and they're using the exact same products that I am, you actually make enough money from that your products are discounted almost to the point to where you're getting them for free, because of the profit sharing plan. If you go out and you help those three get their products for free, all of a sudden now you're not just getting your products for free, you're making a little bit of an income so that you can start trying some different products. And I think that's such a great way. It's like, in my opinion, one of the most pure forms of business, because you're sharing information you would share anyhow.
Yeah, that's what I really love about Sizzle. Besides the personal care products, the ability to feel fantastic as well within the body, it's just a wonderful thing, really.
You bet it is. Well, I was just looking at the time, and I know we're getting close to the bottom of the hour here. Is there any other questions that any of you might have? And we should probably keep this recording down.
I just add one more point there, Curt. You mentioned that the Sizzle products, the personal care, are slightly more expensive than, what you'd buy in the store. That being said, because the quality of the product's so high and they're concentrated, you really use so much less of the product that they last a lot longer. So in reality, if you were to look at the economy of purchasing Sizzle products versus, generic toxic products, you'll find most likely that you'll spend less money if you use them in the way they're supposed to, with a small amount, in small amounts that are effective. So I just wanted to add that in, because I was just speaking to Alison before we jumped on the call, and she was saying, my products last such a long time, and there's just one of me. So, and she just made that point. So I just wanted to add that and share that with others.
You bet.
Yeah, I discovered that too, Katie. When I joined Sizzle, I got the shampoo, and it's just slightly more money than what you would buy in a nice salon, and for some of them it's even less. But when I used it, I thought, I'm going to keep track of this and see how long it lasts me. It lasted me 5.5 months. So basically, you're only buying shampoo twice a year. And I have long hair, so
wow.
Yeah, I was really impressed with that.